Hello! In this video, I will be going over all of the essential nodes that I think everyone should know when making a game in Unreal Engine. To get started, I'm in the third person template, and I'm also just going to go over to my content drawer, to the third person folder, and to the blueprints folder, and we're just going to create a blueprint example. Okay, so let's get started. If I just go over to my blueprint example and go over to the event graph, this is where we write most of the code for how our blueprints will behave. And one of the most essential nodes is event begin play. So the way this will work is as soon as our game starts, it will fire this node. So for our sphere, event begin play, we can just drag in our sphere, then drag off here and look for set material, and let's set it so it has this basic asset 01 material. We can connect from event begin play into here and just go compile. And if I close this and then drag my BP example somewhere into my level, right now we can see it's this white sphere, although if I play my game, we can see it will turn to that basic 01 material. So that's how the event begin play node works. It's very simple. Next, if we head back to our BP example, and let's just go over how to use these other nodes. So this event actor begin overlap. So as the name implies, when something overlaps this actor, it's going to fire this node. So if we just select our sphere, we just want to scroll down, and right now as collision presets are set to block all dynamic. We just want to change this to be overlap all, and make sure that generate overlap events is true. And what we can do is, if I hold the Alt button on my keyboard and select here, this will break the link here, so this node will no longer work. And if I just connect from event actor begin overlap into here, and just go compile, if I play my game, right now it is white. If say my player overlaps it, then it will basically turn that color. So when something overlaps this actor, it will turn that color. And then the final basic node we have is the event tick node. So the way this will work is every single frame is going to fire this node. So if I just drag off event tick and look for print string, every single frame is going to fire this node. So if I just go compile, close this and I go play, on the left corner we can see it's print stringing hello every single frame. So if you have a computer which is running at 60 frames per second, every single frame is going to be printing that string. Next, let's go over some variables and some essential nodes you'll use with them. If we just open up the BP example and go over to the variables tab and just go create new variable and just call this Boolean example. And for the variable type, make sure it's a Boolean. Just compile this. Now, a Boolean can be either true or false. And if I just drag in my Boolean example, get it, and then just drag off here and look for branch. And let's just connect this from event begin play into here. And for the event actor begin overlap, if I just hold Alt to break the link here, and I'll also break the link here. And then if this is true, I'm going to turn this material the basic asset 01 color. And if this is false, then I'm just going to do nothing. So if I just compile this, right now, this is empty, so if I play my game, it shouldn't change color. And if I just check this, and then I go play, it should change color. And one more thing with variables, we can make them instance editable, and if I just compile this, that'll allow me to dynamically change the value of it in my game. So if I just select this blueprint, and I press Alt to quickly duplicate it, right now, if I go to default, we can see that for this blueprint, the Boolean example is set to be true. If I just leave this unchecked, and for this one, if I leave it checked, when I go play, the checked one will change color and the unchecked one will not. There are also a couple more nodes we can use with Boolean. So right now we just have this branch node, so if this is true, then we change the color of this to be red. But with Booleans, we can also use the AND node. So if I just drag off here and I look for AND Boolean, and I'm just going to create another variable and call this Boolean example 2. And I'm just going to drag this in here, get it, and connect it into here, and connect this into here. And I'll also make this instance editable. And the way this will work is Boolean example and Boolean example 2 both have to be true, and then it will change the color of this to be red. So if I just compile this, and let's just make it true here. So both of those variables have to be true in order for it to basically change color. We can also use the OR node, so if I just delete this, I can drag off here and look for the OR Boolean, and I can connect from here into here, and here into here. So the way this will work is either one of these variables can be true, and I'll change the color of this to be red. And we also have the not Boolean node. So if I just drag off here and I look for not Boolean and connect this into here, the way this will work is it'll do the opposite of this. So if this is not true, then it's basically going to make my material red. However, if this Boolean is true, then because this is not, this is going to be false. So it's not actually going to change the color of my blueprint. We can just compile this and test this out. So for this one, let's make it checked. So for this one, if I leave it checked, then it should remain white. And for this one, if I leave it unchecked, then it should turn red. So if I just go play, we can see this one's white and this one's red. So that's the Boolean variable, and those are some of the most common nodes which are used with it. The next common variable that you're probably going to use is going to be the integer variable. So if I just create a new variable, and I'm just going to call this number. If we go over to variable type, change this to be an integer. Then just go compile. Now an integer has to be a whole number. So if I drag in this variable and try and set it, if I try and make this something like 54.5, it's not going to work because integers need to be a whole number. Next, let's go over some common nodes which are used with the integer. So if I just drag in my number, I can get it. Then if I just drag off here and look for the switch on int, I'm just going to delete the booleans and branch that I made earlier. And if I just add 3 pins, then connect from event begin play into here, and from 0 into here, and I'm just going to copy this 2 more times. So I'm just going to copy this and paste 2 more times. I'll connect from 1 into here, and from 2 into here, and I'm going to change this to be the basic asset 2, and I'm going to change this one to be the basic asset 3. So depending on what number this is, will depend on what color my sphere will change to. Let's make sure to make this instance editable so I can change it dynamically in the game, and let's just go compile. And let's just make it so this has number 0 and this has number 1. And now if I go play, we can see they'll change to their relevant colors. So like I said, we can use integers to store whole numbers. Another common node which is used with integers is the random integer in range. So it's good to use integers for creating RNG in your game. So RNG is random number generator, if you don't know that. And if I just right click and I go random integer in range, and I can make this go from a minimum value of 0 to a max value of 2. And event begin play is going to randomly select one of these 3 colors to be my sphere. So if I just go compile and we go play, it's just going to randomly choose a color for our spheres. So that time they were both the same color, although this time they're different colors. The next variables and nodes I want to show you have to do with the vector variable. For this example, if we just open up the third person character and just create a new variable and call it location. For the variable type, change it to be a vector, and then find some free space, and I'm just going to right click and make it so when I press the 1 key, I will drag off here and look for the node set actor location, and I'm going to set my actor's location to be whatever this location variable is. So if I just drag it in, get it, and connect this into here, when I press 1, I'll go to wherever this location is. I'm just going to compile this, and I'm just going to get the location of the sphere, so it's 1000 in the X, 1290 in the Y, and 200 in the Z. I'm just going to copy all of these values into this variable here. And just go compile. And I'm just going to delete this. And now if I go play, let's say I move away and then I press the 1 button, it will transform me to that location. We can also use the vector variable to basically change the scale of an object. So if we just go back to our BP example, I'm going to create a new variable and just call this scale. And let's just change this to be a vector. And I'm just going to press Alt to break the link here, and to event begin play, I'm just going to drag in my sphere and drag up here and look for set scale. And we want this one, set world scale 3D, and connect from event begin play into here. And then for my scale, we can just drag it in, get it, and then connect it. And now if I go compile, let's give this a scale of 5 in all its axes. And now if I go compile and I play my game, when I play my game, we can see my sphere now has a scale of 5 in all its axes. So those are some specific variables and nodes that you probably use together. Next, we're going to go over some specific nodes that you may use. If we just open up the BP example, and we can just delete everything so far. The first node I want to show you is the delay node. So the way this will work is after the delay node has fired, it's going to perform a certain action. So if I just drag off event begin play and look for delay, and let's just make it 2 seconds. So after a delay of 2 seconds, it's going to now fire this completed node. So after 2 seconds, let's just make it say print string, and let's make it say hello. So if I just compile this, and I play my game, after 2 seconds, it'll print string hello. There's also another type of delay, which is called the Retriggable Delay, and I just want to showcase how this works. So if I just go over to my third person character, and we just want to look for event begin play. So if I go Control F, that allows me to search for specific nodes, and I'm just going to look for event begin, and I want this one, event begin play. So here in my character, it adds my player character's controls. After we do this, I'm just going to drag off here and look for a Retriggable Delay. And let's just make this 2 seconds. I'm also just going to drag my 1 key and move it up here. We can delete the set actor location node and connect from 1 into here. And I'm just going to drag off here and look for print string. So the way the Retriggable Delay will work is if this is called again, then it's going to stop it from firing. So event begin play, after 2 seconds, it's going to print string hello. However, if I press 1, this is going to fire on the Retriggable Delay, and I'm going to have to wait another 2 seconds before this fires. So if this Retriggable Delay is called again, it's going to reset it, and we're going to have to wait another 2 seconds. So if I go compile, I close this, and let's just delete the sphere. And if I go play, if I keep on tapping 1, then I'm going to be calling my Retriggable Delay, so it's not going to basically be able to print string hello. However, if I stop pressing 1, after 2 seconds, it's going to print string hello. So that's the way the Retriggable Delay works. The next node I think you should know about is the Flipflop node. So if we just open up our third person character, and I'm just going to delete this. When I press the 1 key, I'm going to drag off and look for the Flipflop node. So the way this will work is first it's going to do A, then it's going to do B. So when I call this Flipflop node, first I'm going to drag in my mesh, then drag off here and look for set material, and connect A into here. And let's just change it so our mesh will change to the basic 1 material. And when I press the B button, I'm just going to copy this. We'll make it so our mesh will change to the basic 2 material. So now if I go compile, close this, and I go play. Inside of my game, when I press 1, I'll change red. Then when I press 1 again, I'll change the other color. And I can just press 1 and 1 to flip-flop between those 2 nodes. One more thing, since we're here, we're using the set material node, and right now we're changing element 0 on our mesh. If I just go to the viewport and I select my mesh, right now this has 2 materials. Element 0 is this one, and element 1 is this one. So if I go over to my event graph, if I change the element index to be 1, it's going to be changing this material instead of that material. So now if I go compile and I close this and I go play, when I press 1, it's going to change element 1 on my mesh. So that only basically applies if your mesh is using multiple material slots. The next node I want to show you is the sequence node. If I just close this and we go over to our BP example, we can just delete these nodes, and event begin play, I'm going to drag off here and look for sequence. So the way this will work is first it's going to fire this node, then it's going to fire this node. Let's just add another pin, and that basically allows us to add more pins to our sequence. If you want to remove a pin from our sequence, we can just right click and go remove execution pin. So inside of our BP example, first let's make it print string hello. Then we can change our sphere. So if I drag in my sphere, I'll drag off here and look for set mesh. And we want this one, set static mesh. And I can change the mesh of this to be something else. So let's change it to be a cone. And then I want to change this material, so I can just drag off my sphere again and look for set material. And I'm just going to change it to be basic asset 3, and I'll connect from here to here. And now if I go compile, when I play my game, it's going to do all of those changes. That happened a bit fast, so what we can do is add our delay node. So first we'll print string hello, and then I'm going to have a delay of 1 second, then I'll change it to a cone, and then let's have a delay of 2 seconds, and then we'll change it to be this color. So let's go compile, close this, and now if I go play, first it's a sphere, then it changed to be a cone, then it changed to be green. So that's how the sequence works. The next node I want to cover is the do once node. If we just open up our third person character and go over to the bit where we make it so when we press the 1 button, it will change the color of our player character. If we just drag off here and look for do once, then compile, if I close this and then go play, when I press 1 to swap the color of my character, if I try and press 1 again, it's not going to happen. I can only basically fire this node once. So if I just go back to my third person character, the do once will basically only allow me to fire these nodes once. What we can do is reset this do once, so we can call it again. So if I just right click and look for the 2 key, I can make it so when I press 2, it will reset this do once, then I can press the 1 key again. So if I just go compile, close this, and I go play, when I press 1, if I try and press 1 again, I can't swap colors. Although if I press 2, that will reset the do once, and then I can press 1 again. So we can just use the do once if we only want certain events to fire once, and if we ever want to reset the do once, we can plug something into the reset value. The next node I want to go over is the branch node. Now we did already go over this when we set up the Boolean variable, but I just want to go over a quick shortcut that you can use to quickly create branches. If you hold the B button on your keyboard and just left click, that will allow you to quickly create a branch. So just a quick recap, the way the branch node will work is if the condition of this branch works, then it's going to fire off true. If the condition of this branch is not met, then it'll fire off false. The next nodes I want to go over are event begin overlap and event end overlap. If we just open up our BP example, and I'm just going to go over to the viewport and delete this sphere. Instead, if we go over to components and go add and look for a box collision. With it selected, go over to details and in the search, look for hidden in-game and just make sure that this is unchecked, just so that we can visually see this. Then if I scroll down and I go to on component begin overlap, when something overlaps this will fire. So kind of similar to the node that we used at the start. So let's make it so if our player character overlaps this will basically print string. So if I just drag off other actor and look for equal, and then if I just right click and look for get player character, connect this into here, and then I'm just going to create a branch by holding B on my keyboard and left clicking. If my player character overlaps this box, we can make this print string player entered box. And then if I select the box again, this time I can set on component end overlap, and I can basically fire this node when something leaves this box. So we can just copy these nodes here and paste them again, connect from other actor into here and from here into here. So when my player character ends overlap with this box, so they leave this box, we can make this print string player left box. Let's compile this, close this, and test this out. Now normally in a game we wouldn't have the box collision be visible, but this is just for testing purposes. That's why I made it so we can see it. And when I enter this box, we can see it says player entered box, and when I leave this box, it says player left box. So that's how the begin and end overlap events work. We also have the on hit event. If I just open up my BP example and I select my box, just change its collision presets to be block all. So now my player is not going to basically be able to overlap this box. Before it was on overlap all, and when we have this set to block all, I can go to on component hit, and I can make it so when something hits this box, it will fire this node. So let's just make it print string hit, and then when I go compile, and I play my game, when the player hits this box, it'll fire. So that's how to use the on component. So normally when I add a box collision, these are the main three nodes that you'll probably use as a beginner. Next, let's go over how to use the for loop node. If I just open up my third person character, I'm just going to delete the nodes that we used last time. And when I press the 1 button, I'm going to drag off and look for the for loop node. So this will basically fire however many times my last index is. So if I make this 5, when I call this for loop, it's actually going to run this 6 times. Now the reason it's going to run this 6 times is because it counts 0 as a number. Just to show you what I mean, if I just drag off this loop body and look for print string, and then connect index into here, if I compile, close this, and then go play, when I press 1, we can see it print string 6 times because it includes 0 as a number. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So the for loop node will basically fire for however many times this last index is. And when it finishes, this completed node is going to fire. So if I just drag off completed and look for print string, and I can make this a completed, then go compile, and if I just go play, when I press 1, it will do the for loop, and then when it's completed, it will print string completed. The next node I want to show you is the timeline. We can basically use the timeline to make specific events happen over a specific duration of time. Let's go over how to use it. If I just go back to my BP example, I'm just going to delete all of the nodes I made last time, and I'm also just going to go to my viewport and delete this box. Next, let's create a door. So I'm just going to go add and look for a cube, and I'm just going to go select and scale objects and just kind of scale it up so it kind of looks like a door. And then I'm also just going to go add and add another cube and just call this the door hinge, and just move this towards a bottom corner of your cube, so somewhere like here. Then just drag the cube into the door hinge. Now if I select the door hinge, and let's say I go to select and rotate objects, when I rotate the door hinge, it should rotate my cube with it. So this will kind of act like the hinge of the door. So what we're going to do is, using the timeline, we can basically make this door hinge move. So let's go over how we do that. If I just go over to my event graph, I can just delete this branch, and event begin play, I'm just going to drag off here and look for add timeline. We can just call this our timeline, and if I open this up, we can also select how long we want our timeline to be. So I'm going to make my timeline 3 seconds. Next, we just want to go add track and select add float track. We can just call this our new track. Next, we want to add some points to our timeline. So if I just right click and I go add key to curve float 1, at time 0, I want this timeline to have a value of 0. Then I'm just going to right click again and add another key to the curve float at time 3, so at the end of this timeline, I want this timeline to have a value of 1. Next, we can just go back to our event graph. So over the duration of 3 seconds, we're going to make our door open and rotate. So if I just drag in my door hinge, I just want to drag off here and look for set relative rotation. I'm going to right click on this new rotation value and go split structure pin. If I just go back to my viewport and set my door hinge, we're only going to be rotating our door in one axis, and that axis is the Z axis. So if I go back to my event graph, we're not going to change our door's values in its X or Y. So if I just drag off here and I look for get relative rotation, this will get the rotation values that I have for my door, and we just want to right click and go split structure pin and connect X into X and Y into Y, and from update into here. So as my timeline is updating, it's going to basically update these values. Next, we normally use the timeline with the lerp node. So if I just right click and I look for lerp, and the way this lerp node will work is, this can go from a value of 0 to 1. When the lerp is at a value of 0, it's going to have value A, and when this lerp is at a value of 1, it's going to have value B. So we just want to connect our new track into the alpha. So our track goes from a value of 0 to 1. When we're in our timeline, at second 0, this has a value of 0, so it's going to be value A. And when we're in our timeline at second 3, this has a value of 1, so then it's going to go to value B. So if I just select my door hinge, it starts off with a value of 0. So here in A, I'm just going to leave this at 0. Although I want my door to rotate 90 degrees. So here in B, I'm just going to put 90. And we just want to connect this return value into Z and connect update into here. So as this is updating, it's also going to update our door hinge. It's also going to update the rotation of our door. So if I just go compile, we can close this and test everything out. Instead of playing, another way we can just test things inside of Unreal Engine is by going here and going simulate. And this will basically simulate as if our game was playing. So as you can see, when I click play, so when I click simulate, we can see my door slowly rotated. Nice. So that's just an example of how we can use timelines to basically make things happen over time. We could, if we wanted to, also just make an object become bigger over time. So instead of setting the relative rotation of my door to basically rotate, I can just delete all of these nodes, and I can just drag off here and look for set scale. And I'm just going to go for this one, set world scale 3D, and I'm going to connect from here into here, and from update into here. So right now my door hinge starts with a scale of 1, and let's make it so it scales all the way over to 5. And let's just go compile, close this, and if I go simulate, over the duration of 3 seconds, we can see this will become a lot bigger. Hello, the next node I want to go over are custom events. So if I just go over to my third person character, we can create custom event nodes. So if I just right click in some free space and I look for add custom event, and I can just call this swap colors. And when I call this custom event, it's going to run it. So when I call this, I'm just going to drag in my mesh, drag off here and look for set material, and let's make it so our mesh will change to be, let's say, this arrow material. Then anywhere inside of my blueprint, I can call this custom event. So I'm just going to hold Alt and break the link here. When I press 1, I can call this custom event. Or maybe event begin play, after I do all of this, I can call this custom event. Another thing with custom events is we can make them have inputs. So if I just select this, I can go add input, and I can make this custom event have a variable. Let's just make it have this Boolean variable, and only if it's true, we will swap colors. And now if I go over to where I placed my custom event, here I can see the input, and I can just make sure it's checked when I press the 1 button. And now if I were to test this out and compile, when I play my game, if I press 1, I will swap colors. The next node I want to show you is the set timer by event. If we just go back to our third person character, I'm just going to delete this. And when I press the 1 button, I'm just going to drag off here and look for set timer by event. We just want to right click on this and promote it to a variable and just call it event example. For this event, we can just drag off here and look for add custom event, and I'll just call this swap colors flip-flop. For the time, make it 1 and just make sure that this is looping. So when I press the 1 button, it's going to call this custom event, and it's going to happen every 1 second because we checked this looping box. If I did not check this looping box, then this would only happen once. But make sure it's checked and make sure the time is 1. Then when we call this event, we can just drag off here and look for the flip-flop. And what I'm going to do is make my player character swap between 2 colors. So I'm just going to drag in the mesh, drag off here and look for set material. And let's change it so our mesh will change between this basic color. And I'm just going to copy this, and it will change between this other basic color. So I'll connect A into here and B into here. So now if I go compile and I close this, so if I go play and I press the 1 button, every 1 second it's going to run my set timer by event, and it's going to basically make my player character swap colors. Although we may want our set timer by event to stop running. So let's go over how we can stop it. If I just go back to my third person character, if you remember, we promoted this to a variable. So if I just right click and I'll look for the 2 key again, when my player presses this, we can just drag in the event example, get it, then just drag off here and look for clear and invalidate timer by handle. And this will stop my set timer by event from running, so it will basically stop it. So I can just go compile, close this, and then go play. When I press 1, it will basically start my timer. Then if I press 2, it will stop it. So that's basically how we can use the set timer by event. The next node I want to show you is the find look at rotation node. This could be helpful if you want an actor to face your player character. So let's just go over to our BP example. and I'm just going to delete the door hinge and this cube, and I'm just going to go add and look for a cone. And then another thing, if I just go add and look for arrow, this will let me know the forward direction of my object. Just select your cone and rotate it so it's facing the arrow. I'm just going to delete this arrow now. And then if I go over to my event graph, and I'm just going to right click and look for event tick. And event tick, I'm going to use the find look at rotation node to basically make this actor face my player character. So if I just right click and look for find look at rotation, we can use this node to basically make it face a certain object like our player character. So this has two inputs, start and target. Where this is going to start, we can just right click and look for get actor location. And the target, this is where we want it to look at. I want it to look at my player character, so I can just right click and look for get player character. Then I can just drag off here and look for get actor location. Then I can just drag off here and look for set actor rotation and connect this into here. So event tick, I'm going to basically be making my BP example face my player character. Let's compile this and test this out. Okay, it looks like I'm having an error in target. Okay, so that is to do with the thing that I deleted last time. So I'm just going to delete this and go compile. And if I close this, when I go play it, we can see the cone is facing me. And as I kind of move away and around it, it continues to face me. And as I move up, it will move up. And as I move down, it will move down. And if you wanted to, you could make it so it only rotates towards the player in a specific axis. So if I just press Alt to break this link, I can right click here and split the structure pin. I can also right click here and split the structure pin. And maybe I'll just make it face my player in the Z axis, then go compile. And it'll only face my player character in the Z axis. If I jump up, it won't basically move with it. Okay, so sometimes you just need to do that. So those are all of the essential nodes that I think you should know when you're starting Unreal Engine. If you want to continue learning Unreal Engine and want to learn how to create full games in Unreal Engine, make sure to check out my website, Unreal Engine University. I have courses which will teach you how to make full games like a 2D platformer, an FPS game, a melee combat system, and I'm always working on adding more courses. So make sure to head over there and subscribe to access all of my courses there. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. It really helps me out. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.